Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you from that really dusty, faded player's handbook on the shelf. You know the one. God, I remember how excited you were when you first bought that crimson tome of possibility. That beautiful redhead of fantasy and wonder. The endless hours you'd spend poring over classes, spells, and rules. Where did those days go? It used to be that if you weren't sure of something, you just pick up the old girl, flick to the correct page, and reel out a rule verbatim. Now look at us. We just make it up as we go along. Homebrew. More like home wrecker. I'm your host, Conor Martin, and joining me as always is my co-host, Mr. Martin O'Dwyer.
I'm very confused. Also,
Okay.
have you been drinking?
No. unlike some episodes, I have not been drinking, and also I wrote this 8 minutes ago.
Okay.
So basically, it's a commentary, if you will, on how as you get more accomplished and seasoned at playing D&D or running D&D, we don't check. I can't remember the last time I cracked open the player's handbook to actually check a rule.
That's very fair, because I also can't remember the last time I cracked open the PHP to check a rule.
Yeah, and I feel, and it's a commentary, again, Martin, on how, as seasoned D&D players, we tend to just make it up because we understand the mechanics well enough that doesn't matter what the rule is, we will just make the ruling ourselves. So we don't pay attention to our players' handbooks anymore, and they end up, it's like a relationship that's fallen apart. That's the metaphor I'm throwing out here. It used to be young and full of wonder and love, and now it's all just faded away into bleakness, not unlike the actual color of my player's handbook, which has faded from sunlight into a shade of pink. Oh, by the way, the comparison of it being a beautiful redhead of fantasy and wonder, the book is primarily red, and if this is the spine of the book, the top of the spine where the head would be is normally red on all D&D books. There, I've explained my entire intro. How are you?
I'm good. I just assumed it was because your fiance has red hair, but okay.
Well, look, I mean, everyone knows I have a type. Whether it comes to certain gaming manuals or the woman I choose to spend my life with, yeah, Connor likes redheads. Okay.
Hey, you're in good company. So did Spider-Man and Wolverine.
There you go. I don't know if it worked out well for Wolverine in the movies, though. I'm pretty sure she murdered a whole bunch of people. And
Yeah, the less you say about the X-Men movies, the better, to be honest.
yeah, true.
Aside from Logan is fantastic.
Logan's great. Literally every other Wolverine movie, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think about it, but you're like, yeah. Okay.
No, I just went.
Okay, it's not really a Wolverine movie, but it kind of is because he's the main character.
Wolverine. Every
Those two are,
film
but I was thinking more along the lines of Days of Future Past is actually quite good.
Okay, I like Days of Future Past.
It's kind of a Wolverine movie because he's the main guy in it.
Yeah.
In the same way that Captain America: Civil War is just an Avengers movie, even though he's the main guy in it.
Yeah, in the comic books, it's actually Kitty Pryde that goes back in time because it makes sense for that.
But she doesn't bring in the big bucks.
Nah, Wolverine though. Wolverine.
Yeah. What if her power is that she can send other people back in time?
Yeah.
And they're like, I guess that works. I mean,
what if we take her from the central character and we make her a plot device?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
what if we could put Hugh Jackman on the screen for a 5th time and just make some more money? Ooh, I like money. Okay, that works. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah. Mediocre X-Men movie outings aside, yeah, I'm doing quite well. It's been a good week and a good session. We got to get back into playing as well and had an excellent session. So yeah, no, it's been solid. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Had a nice weekend. I saw Dune yesterday, last night. I really liked it. Now I'm a big Denis Villeneuve fan anyway. I like everything he does. He just has this really great way of making movies that speak visually. I think they're very visually compelling, and everything has this grandiose feel about it. Even when not a lot is happening, it still feels relevant and important.
Is he the guy that did Blade Runner 2048?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did Sicario and he did Arrival as well, which are also 2 good movies. He's really good. He's probably my favorite director at the moment. I went in with, I think, no expectations. I wasn't expecting the greatest thing ever because I'd heard some people didn't like it, and I also wasn't expecting an utterly terrible movie because I didn't think with the cast and writer and director that they had that they were it was going to be absolutely dire. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was definitively a Denis Villeneuve movie. You could tell that just by the way it's shot and everything. But it was great. Really, really cool. I'm not super familiar with Dune. I never read the book, and I'm only vaguely familiar with some of the setting and the spice and the worms and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought everyone was really, really great in it. Zendaya is only in it for a very short period of time. I think someone online timed it, and it was like 6 minutes is all she's in it for, which is accurate. But this is only the first part of the continuing story. And he kind of, I won't spoil anything, but presumably there is more of her to come as a more central character.
I never read the book, and I heard the first movie, the original set of movies with, I believe, Sting in them, were like 6 hours long or some ridiculous shit like that, and had like sorry, we're gonna have to.
Were these the ones from the 90s?
I think so. I honestly, it's, when you hear older nerds talking, it's the best way you can put it. When you can hear older nerds talking.
Oh, sorry, it's 84. It's not even 90s.
They always go on about like Doom and stuff. Not Doom, but Dune.
Thing, isn't it?
I'm not super interested. I'm gonna be honest. I like the trailers look cool and stuff, but I'm not like super interested. I'm probably gonna go see Eternals during the week. That's been getting pretty mixed reviews, so I want to see what it's like for myself. I have a feeling it's going to be another like Captain America style movie, where the movie isn't great itself, but it sets up a lot of things that'll pay off in the future. But I think I'd get around to Dune, but I'm just like, I don't really have any kind of attachment to it, or
I don't have any real attachment to the franchise either. I purely went because it was Denis Villeneuve, and I'm a big fan of his, and I wanted to see what he would do with a sci-fi epic like this.
It's also put me off because he's another one of those directors who's like, oh, Marvel movies aren't cinema. It's like, well, where did they play, bitch?
I am. When I was thinking about what to go see this weekend, my choice was between Eternals and Dune. I chose Dune purely because it had been out longer, and I figured if I'm going to see it, I might as well see it now. Eternals is going to have a few more weeks of a run in theaters, so
plus it'll be on Disney Plus in like 40 days.
True. But yeah, I'm excited to see. God, I can't speak. It's very early in the podcast for me to not be able to speak. But yeah, I'm excited to see Eternals as well. I think you're right. I think a lot of what's happening in the MCU right now is very much it's set up. It's build up. It's set up. They're laying out the pieces. It's I mean, even as good as like Loki was and stuff like that, but Loki very obviously set up certain things. And then even like what's it? Falcon Winter Soldier did the same as well. It was kind of its own isolated thing. But you can see where the ripple effects are moving towards, and how they will play into the grander scheme of things.
Yeah.
So it's a case. I mean, not everything can be end game all the time. It'll build up to a peak, and then everyone will be like, "Whoa, that was amazing!" Yeah. And then it will taper off for a while, but they'll gradually build back up. And I think we're on the upturn now. I think we'll see some cool stuff.
I think when they don't have to introduce 6 characters at once, the film will be a lot better.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. I don't like Guardians of the Galaxy was like a similar film where they're like, hey, here's a bunch of characters whose names you need to learn and stuff.
Such a different tone though. Like Guardians,
very different.
Guardians very fun, wacky space opera kind of adventure, and Eternals is like, no, this is a very serious film that's going to cover 6,000 years of history.
yeah. And the thing is as well, like with Guardians, everyone was like, you have the regular human guy with guns. You have the grey dude who's really strong. You've got the tree, the raccoon, and the green girl with swords. Like, they're all so distinct that, like, even if you don't know their names, you have to be like, you still be able to describe them and all that. Whereas in this, you're like, oh, the one guy with the powers or the other guy with the powers. Yeah. Do you mean the white British guy with the powers or the other white British guy with the powers?
Or do you mean the white British guy who played a Stark or the other white British guy who played a Stark?
Played a Stark, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, look, yeah, Kit Harington is English. Yeah. No, is he? He is. He's New Zealand, is he? No, never mind.
No, he's British.
Good. No, Yeah, no, the joke still stands, so that's fine. But yeah, no, I think I will get around to seeing Dune because I do like quite a lot of people in it. Like I like Zendaya, I like
There's a great cast in it. Really, really
I'm
great
a
cast.
big fan of why can I not remember his name now? Ronan
Josh
Dex.
Brolin?
Ronan Dex.
Oh, Jason Momoa.
Thank you, Jesus Christ.
I like you called him Ronan Dex as well, and not Khal Drogo. Like like people who are like, I don't know what you call them. What do you call someone who's very late to the fucking party?
Blow-ins. Bandwagoners.
Yeah, exactly. Like people who are like, oh, people who started watching Game of Thrones very late, and they're like, Khal Drogo's amazing, and I'm like, he's Ronan Dex from Stargate SG-1 or Stargate Atlantis, sorry, and that's all he'll ever be. I will always be Ronan Dex for me. You never saw him fighting with a sword and a red energy revolver and just kicking ass left, right, and center.
That was pretty sick.
He does quite a lot of really cool action actually in this movie, and it's a bit of a throwback to his Ronan Dex stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've heard he's really good in the action scenes, and I really like I like the concept of the combat in Dune. From what I've seen people talk about, it's like the shields, where like it sort of works off the same logic as why do Gundams have like giant fucking like swords and axes and sides and stuff, and it's because in the future, like the idea is that like armor will get so good and so protective that projectiles are basically impossible to injure someone with. So the only thing you can really do is go in there with a melee weapon and start ripping shit up. And it's the same thing with like mechs, where like the armor on a mech will be so good it'll stop any kind of bullet you have or bomb or explosive you have. But like a 14-ton greatsword, it's gonna do some damage. And from what I understand, the shields in Dune, it's a similar thing where they'll block projectiles, but like a blade can just pierce right through it.
Yeah, so they actually did a very similar thing in Mass Effect as well, where what happens is your shield is on, when a bullet moves towards you, if something is traveling at a certain velocity, the shield would repel it; it'll bounce off. So that's why they don't work in Dune. If you shoot someone with a gun, it'll just ricochet off. But if you come up to someone and you take a blade and you if you go to stab really quickly, what happens is it will lunge and then it will slow down like inches from the actual flesh, but then you can just slowly push it the rest of the way through, because you're moving it slow enough at that point that the shield isn't blocking it the same way, which is really cool. They do a similar thing in Mass Effect where they explain that like, oh yeah, you can have your shield on at all times and you can like try to pick up a cup of coffee and it won't be flung across the room because the coffee cup is not moving fast enough to be repelled by the shield.
Yeah. No, that's a cool thing. I like that. It's very sci-fi, but I like it.
And it's a good reasoning as to why, despite having these insane spaceships and all these other crazy, because it's the year 10,191. It's really, really far future. And it kind of makes sense as to why you would have knives and weapons and all that and be able to do cool hand-to-hand combat, and why everyone isn't just using laser guns or something like that, you know?
Yeah, very cool. That's usually the kind of thing you see. It's I always like the explanations that fiction goes to for like, yeah, we're just like, it's billions of years in the future and we have spaceships and jump gates that can port us across time and space, but I also use a falchion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, realistically, we forgive it, I think, because it's space opera and it doesn't have to really make sense. But in Star Wars, they use lightsabers the whole time, and it's like when you look at like particularly the prequels and you watch like a ton of Jedi in the front lines of the Clone Wars charging in against battle droids, and I'm like, yeah, but they're still machine guns. They're laser machine guns that the droids are using. I don't care if you can cut through a droid like they're made of warm butter. Like you can only deflect so many blaster bolts, but they kind of make it seem like the Jedi can just deflect anything with the lightsaber.
Isn't like, and now you're much more up on Star Wars than I am. But isn't the conceit in Star Wars that the Jedi are like force sensitive and are able to predict where the blaster bolts are going to hit, so they just move they just move the lightsaber into the exact spot to stop it. Yeah,
it's what's it? Qui-Gon Jinn mentions it in Phantom Menace. For all that movie's fault, you know.
Metachlorians? Is it Metachlorians, Connor?
It comes before the Metachlorians bit. When Anakin's mother is trying to explain that like, how Anakin has such insanely fast reflexes and why he can race pod racers.
It's because he's force
And then
sensitive or whatever.
he's force sensitive, and he doesn't realize he's doing it, but he's like, he does know what's about to happen a split second before it does, and he can react as a result. And yeah, and more better trained Jedi, of course, then can do that. There's actually a bit in the third movie which is kind of cool, when he goes to Mustafar to kill all of the Separatist leaders, and he's killed everyone but like one person in the room, and he's got the hood up. And he's walking toward the cameras here, and he's walking away towards the door. And I think one droid gets up and tries to take a shot at him, and he doesn't even look. He just has his saber in his hand, and he just puts it behind his back like that, and it perfectly deflects the bolt back at the droid and kills him. And it's like, yeah, because he knew that, but he knew what was happening. He's aware of everything happening in his surroundings.
Yeah, no, I like that stuff. And like Vader's always been a cool character, particularly.
Yeah, I think I know what you're going to talk about. Go on.
There's some. I was just going to say there's some really cool Vader comics that Marvel have put out recently.
Oh yeah. I was going to say that scene in Rogue One where the corridor scene. Oh man.
Oh no, I meant because I actually haven't seen Rogue One yet still. But there's.
Oh, we should sit down and watch it sometime.
It'll take a lot to get me to sit down and watch Star Wars. But no.
Do you know what? It's a very un Star Wars movie. It's way more like an action kind of thing, like.
But in the Marvel comics, there's a bit where I think like they like shoot down. I think Vader crashes onto a planet that he was fighting the rebels on, and like a bunch of rebels just surround him. And like he like gets out out of the wreckage, and there's like 30 rebels with like laser pistols all trained on him, and he's like, "Give up! You're surrounded!" And he's like, "I'm surrounded by fear and dead men." Oh, it was so good. Like, and he just killed everybody. Then it was sick.
There is I think there's also another good bit at the end of. I can spoil this because skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't if you haven't played Jedi Fallen Order. At the end of Fallen Order, there's a bit where after the final boss, Vader shows up, and the final boss is tough, but Vader shows up, and then like every character in it is like. Yeah, no, you don't even bother trying. Just run. Like, there's no conceivable way you can fight this man. And like, as you can try. It puts you in the combat thing, and you're playing, and it lets you run forward and try to strike him a couple times. And every time he does, he's just like flick bang, and you're like knocked on your ass. Or you try to block it, and there's like you cannot hit him or get anywhere near him. And then he just like grabs you and holds you. And I think the only way you escape is by force pulling something from behind him down on him, but even then it doesn't hit him. He turns around and holds it, but in holding that he lets you go. So it's not even that you outsmarted him. He knew it was coming and reacted in time to stop it, and then you make a run for it. And as you do, I think he's like collapsing the platforms you're running on. He's crushing them with the force and everything. And it's another one of those scenes, a bit like Rogue One, where like Vader is scary, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen the old movies so much as a kid that like he's not as scary as he should be to me. But in these newer scenarios, you're like, oh my god, yeah, he's insane. He's insanely powerful.
To be fair, those old movies are very PG as well. So it's like Vader is intimidating, but like I think when you're an adult, it's hard to be scared of him. If you get me.
Yeah, I think it's particularly if you look at his very first appearance when the stormtroopers line up and he walks out of the smoking door.
It's an awesome entrance, but that's only going to scare a child, really.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's like you see him too easily. I think if you shoot that modern day, what you do is you would have his footsteps come first, like dum dum dum, and then like you'd see a whoosh of black cloak, and you'd see a boot like land and stop or you'd see someone else seeing him. So the camera's on this person, but they're looking up here. And they're looking terrified, and then it's kind of it's translating all these ideas that he is intimidating, he is scary, he is terrifying. I think they shoot it way different, other than camera on door, Vader walks in, puts his hands on his hips, and looks around like this.
He was also played by a very skinny, very posh Englishman for the actual physical performance, so that may have had something to do with it.
Possibly. It's hard. It's very hard to look back on that nowadays. When I watch it, and he walks in, he literally stands there with his hands on his hips. Like, oh, it's great. It's like he's in a panto. He's like, lovely day of killing rebels. Martin, today we are talking about. First off, actually, happy episode 45, by the way.
Episode 45.
We're
I know.
45 episodes in.
We're rapidly approaching a year of Micflayers, and it's scary.
Mm-hmm. What date did we start actually?
We started in December, I believe.
So yeah, we're a couple weeks out. Yeah.
Mm.
Right. And today, if you probably didn't because Martin didn't get it, so I'm sure no one listening got it based on my intro. I wrote it really fast. Okay. Today we're talking about homebrew, specifically homebrew rules. So in-house table rules and stuff like that you and your party might carry through from game to game and stuff like that. We have a couple that we use in our own game. I pulled a few online. I thought we'd go through them and just kind of talk about maybe their benefits, positive and negative benefits and stuff like that. And yeah, we're just gonna get a discussion going as people are wont to do with podcasts. Um, so first up, Martin, this is one we've used. We actually stole it from Critical Role. I'm pretty sure it's a very commonly used one, and it's healing potions take a bonus action.
Yes. Oh god. Like why this isn't just a base rule, I do not know. But yeah, absolutely. I've been using that literally since I started playing, and also since I started DMing. Bonus action to take a potion, action to take one yourself, or feed one to someone else. Sorry, action to feed one to someone else rather. Bonus action to take one yourself.
Yeah. And that, I mean that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, like I think I don't know. I think particularly about like especially with the Blood Hunter now being a class and stuff like that. If you want to really play one of those Witcher kind of ones, being able to swig one of your remedies, or even if you carry additional potions to be a little more Witcher, like you actually buy them in towns or you brew them yourself with an alchemy kit. I think it's super cool just to be able to swig a potion and then immediately jump into the action. So yeah, I love this one. I think it kind of in my head it's like it's a lot to ask to be like your whole action. Oh, great. Here, use your action. Now you're under the effect of a potion of haste. That's great. You can do something next turn. Like
Yeah, I suppose with a potion of haste, you could take the potion of haste is probably the worst example you could have picked there because you drink the potion, then you can take another action. But I just think it feels really shitty to be like, I use my action to heal 2d4 plus 2 hit points.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Like even potions.
But like a fighter can do a d10 plus their fighter level as a bonus action.
Yeah.
And they
but even like that's a really good point when you consider like from just strictly healing potions. Like a regular, depending on what level you are and stuff like that, and what you're fighting, you might take a healing potion as an action. We'll say as per normal rules, take a healing potion as an action. You gain back whatever it is, somewhere between 5 and 20 hit points or whatever, depending on what level of potion you use, and then in between that and your next turn, the creature could just smack you again and do that much damage. So you're like, I just wasted my turn healing only to have that health gone again, and now I'm back where I was 2 turns ago, you know?
Like, not only did you waste your action, but you effectively also wasted that potion.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's much better if you can still continue to use your action to do something offensive or in other ways beneficial. Yeah. But then get the healing on the side. I love this one. I've seen some people make specifications about whether or not they would do it with healing in its own category. So only healing potions can be drank in that way. But I don't think there's a huge.
But yeah,
I don't think it's a.
Sorry, I was like, I can see where someone's coming from there because there are certain potions that are extremely powerful. Like one of the new ones in Fizzbands lets you turn Potion of Dragon's Majesty, lets you turn into an adult dragon of whatever color the potion is. Like that's incredibly powerful, and I could see why someone would want to do that as an action, because if you think about it, if that's a bonus action, I take that potion. Bonus action, I take a potion of Dragon's Majesty. Action, I do my breath weapon. Like you can really, that's a hell of a turn. But yeah, no, overall, I wouldn't delineate because I think I think it would just feel really bad and clunky, and personally speaking, I couldn't come up with a way to justify it to the players that I would also feel okay with.
About why you can use a healing potion but not I agree.
It's the exact same action that you're doing. All this difference is the effect the potion has. So like you're literally just penalizing someone for the effects the potion has that you've given to them to use.
Yeah. And again, like to come back to what we were saying a second ago, it doesn't feel fun in my head, and really like D&D is a game. At the end of the day, we're all here to have fun. It doesn't feel fun to me to swig down a potion of of enlarging, or a potion of giant strength or something, and then have describing, oh, my muscles grow, or I grow to be 12 feet tall or whatever it is, and then I'm like, cool, I guess I'll attack next turn. You want to be able to use something like that and then rush into it, and just get going. So I think it's way cooler to be able to do that. I think actually we don't come across it terribly often because I don't find that you guys use potions other than health potions a huge amount. But there is actually, I think, rules for if you take multiple potions.
It can have like a weird feedback on you or something like that.
Yeah, like I think for each additional potion you take after one that isn't like a healing potion, let's say you take a potion of enlarge and you take a potion of giant strength and a potion of fire breath, it like exponentially increases your chances of having like a random magical effect happen, which I think I love. By the way.
I like
cool.
that a lot. Yeah.
That's simple one. Potions is a bonus action. I'm gonna talk about one that is a little bit controversial.
Okay.
I have some papers here. I'm just going to.
Can I guess? Can I guess what it is?
Go on.
Is it Greyhawk Initiative?
Oh no. Is it okay?
I hated that in concept and execution.
Is this okay? Is the Greyhawk one the one where you roll initiative every turn, and based on the action you decide to take, you get bonuses or positives or negatives. So if you go this turn, I'm going to cast a spell. Therefore, I roll and I take a minus whatever to this.
The way I understood it the easiest and how it made me realize exactly how much it sucked was that, let's say say you're a 16th level party and you're fighting a monster. You have a rogue, a fighter, a cleric, and a druid. The cleric and druid decide to cast spells, so those spells go last in initiative order. Then, because the fighter decided to use a greatsword, regardless of what their initiative bonus is, regardless of any feats they took, because you can just take alert, they go after everybody else because they're using a two-handed weapon, and then the dagger user goes first before everyone, regardless of the initiative rolls. I hate that. You completely invalidate initiative as a stat. You completely invalidate the alert feat by taking away that. You there are so many cool things, and
there's also things like war wizards and a couple other classes that get bonuses to their initiative. War wizards get a bonus to it based on their int score, or their int modifier, which is really cool for those types of wizards. Yeah. But you're completely undermining that with these rules. Absolutely.
And I just hate I don't know, let me okay, I'm wearing heavy armor and stuff, but the fact to wear heavy armor you need at least to wear full plate heavy armor you need at least 15 strength. Just to be physically able to wear it, right? If you have the strength to be able to move around and do sword forms and fight someone in full plate, you're fast enough to go to normal initiative, because what D&D is terrible at recognizing, and it's something that annoys the bollocks out of me in many...
What time are we at out of curiosity?
28 minutes just about.
Thank you.
It absolutely annoys the bollocks out of me. D&D doesn't seem to equate strength and speed, right?
It's like they're the opposites of each other in the mind of the game, but really they're kind of the same thing. Really.
The stronger you are, the faster you can swing something heavier.
Absolutely.
And the stronger you are, the faster you can move when you're encumbered, shall we say, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I have a greatsword, I have trained to fucking fight with a greatsword. I am strong enough to use a greatsword at great fucking speeds and attack multiple people in a wide area. D&D needs to get this into its fucking head and give me a strength bow.
It is not often that we get a Martin rant. I rant a lot of this podcast, but it's not often that we get a Martin rant.
Sorry, my Alexa smart lights broke about an hour before the podcast, and it's been pissing me off all day because there isn't a clear way to fix it. And then that just channeled into, no, strength makes you fast as well, dummy.
The funniest part about you dropping that Alexa issue that you're having is that this is the second time he's mentioned it to me, because about a half hour ago before we started, he also brought it up.
Yeah. No, look, it's been a long day. It's been a long 2 hours. I had a great dinner, and then this happened, and I immediately ate it because it's fine, right? But strength makes you fast. That's the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Because if strength didn't make you fast, sprinters wouldn't go near a fucking gym.
There you go. True. Very true. It is the muscle that drives you forward.
Exactly. There's going to be another Martin rant later on in this episode as well, because it's not even the dumbest homebrew rule I've seen.
I was going to go into a slightly different one actually, but just as an addendum to yours, we tried a type of initiative before that I thought was really cool personally. And I still think it's really cool in concept and even in execution. If I was playing at a table and a DM said we're doing this, I would be totally on board for it. And what we did was, because okay, the problem with that kind of initiative, right? It slows things down to a snail's pace because you also need to declare what you're going to do at the start of every round, which means that like if two or three people take their turns, this like either the guy you were going to target might be no longer there, or you might also like the circumstances might change enough that you might be like, oh, I said I was going to make a weapon attack, but actually my ally's down now. I want to feed him a potion, but I can't do that because I've already said I'm going to make a weapon attack. It just adds this, and then on top of that, you're also rolling initiative every single turn, which initiative takes like a solid 3 or 4 minutes to set up. I like doing it once and forgetting about it.
Hell yeah.
But one thing that we did, and again, I really liked this. None of you guys agreed with me in our first campaign, and I was like, I didn't think it was bad, but anyway, we did a type of initiative where I got playing cards. And I assigned each of you guys a playing card. So, like, one of you would be the Jack of Hearts, one of you would be the Queen of Spades, whatever. And then I would take those cards, I would shuffle them, and then I would draw a card, and I'd be like, okay, this is this NPC's turn. Oh, now it's this player's turn, blah, blah, blah. And we go through the whole round, and then I would shuffle them again, and it would come out a completely different order. And I thought that was great because it added a level of unpredictability. You don't know when you're going to go in the initiative order. Everyone still gets their turn, but you don't get the benefit every round. It did take away from the fact that people's dex bonuses did not apply. If people had advantage for whatever reason, say barbarians, what I would have done is I put 2 cards in, and so you have a chance that one of them is going to come up sooner, and then I don't give you 2 turns, but you have a more chance that I'm going to draw one of those cards first.
Yeah.
So you still kind of get advantage on it, just in a different form. And I didn't mind taking away the Dex bonus to initiative because Dex is already the god stat. It already does a lot of stuff, whether it's armor class, stealth, dexterity saving throws, a bunch of stuff. I was okay with Dex not being a factor in initiative as well. But yeah, I ran this for like 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, and you guys collectively were like, no, go back to the other rule, please. And I was like, oh, I thought this was fun, but okay.
I have a severe dislike of anything that makes it harder to coordinate with your party.
I can get that, yeah.
That, like, it's a cool idea. It's a cool way to do it. Just personally speaking, I don't like it, and it's because it does make it hard. Like, I know it's kind of metagamey. But once you've done like 2 or 3 rounds, right? Let's say you've done 2 or 3 rounds of a boss fight. You know now. Okay, this person goes here, this person goes here, then it's the monster, then it's this person, then it's me.
Yeah.
So with that, you can, as you would if you were actually there fighting something, you can coordinate your attacks and your abilities and stuff to set up combinations that make it more advantageous for your party. When it's like, all right, roll the dice. Let's see who goes first this round. I was gonna wait for you to do this thing, so it would have disadvantage on saving throws, so that when I do this, it's much more effective. But okay, I guess I'm just gonna do an entirely different spell now.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the only thing I didn't like. It's a cool idea. I do like the idea, and I do like that there's built-in compensation and kind of for like say like your feral instincts where you've advantage on initiative rolls and stuff.
Yeah.
But I still think like. Yeah, it's like just like you're saying, like the War Wizard where you get your int bonus to initiative. There's a bunch of stuff where you get like your int bonus or your charisma bonus or something like that to your initiative.
Yeah.
And while I absolutely do,
bucklers, isn't it?
Yeah,
charisma bonus. Yeah.
Yes. I knew I remembered it from somewhere. But yeah, I do agree that I think it's cool, it's nice, but like, yeah, I just don't like anything that hinders your ability to cooperate with the rest of your party and kind of plan and do that kind of stuff. But
I think that's very valid. I think my position on it was that as a DM, I liked that. I think maybe we were seeing a situation where like if someone goes down or is unconscious, that should be a very dire situation. You should all be like, oh my god, get them back up quickly. Whereas if you know that, oh, I'm gonna go now, but actually the clerics are immediately after me, I'll attack because I can. and the cleric can go then. But if you don't know what's going to happen, it adds this variable where if you don't know if this person's turn is going to come up before one of your other allies, and that means you make a death save, and then they may fail or whatever.
Yeah.
That was kind of my thinking on it. I thought it just added a layer of challenge and unpredictability, but I get why it doesn't allow you to coordinate as well. Particularly if you're like for example, if you're a type of wizard or a cleric or something like that, you might think, right, I'm going to cast Bless. I'm going to pick the next 3 allies in the initiative order to be blessed, because then I know that we're going to get the effect of that immediately, or at least as soon as possible, rather than picking someone who's already gone this round and then have to wait until the initiative comes back around for them to get a bonus.
What immediately jumped to my mind would be like casting like hate, like say like your wizard casts haste on the rogue, but like for whatever reason, because of the order that the cards come out in, the wizard goes first and the rogue goes last. So it goes like wizard casts haste, 2 turns go by and the monster you're fighting hits the wizard for 36.
And then can't save against it, and then the rogue's haste is gone.
Then the rogue doesn't get haste, and then the rogue is stunned on its turn.
That could still happen even with regular initiatives, to be fair.
Oh, totally it could, but like...
I get what you mean, though. Like, you could at least compensate and say, right, I'm not going to take the chance and give the rogue the haste, because they're not going to have take a turn for ages. All the monsters absolutely haste the barbarian. I get what you mean.
I just like having that ability to plan, and particularly with your spellcasting classes, because you have, and particularly ones where you can swap out all your spells every day. You have so many options.
Druids, baby.
Druids, paladins, clerics, bards.
Do paladins get extra spells, Martin? Do paladins get extra? Martin's making a face at me right now because Martin played a solid 5 levels of Paladin, not knowing that he gets to choose spells daily.
No, I thought I only got the oath spells. We've said this a few times, but yes, no, Paladins are do you know what though? Paladins still an awesome class, even if you forget how they work entirely.
Do you know what? You were still doing fairly well, even with no additional spells. Yeah. Martin did the classic Paladin jock mentality of, these spell slots are just for smites, right?
Yeah, I get 2 spells every spell level from my oath that give me spells I can use, and then all these are just for hitting people.
Yeah, these are just for smacking people, like, yeah.
Yeah, oh man, those are the days.
Error, what a character.
I miss him. He was a lot of fun.
He was good. Paladins are just great. They're very, they have, I said it before and I'll say it again and I'll never stop saying it. Paladins have the single best versatility of any class. They cover, the only thing they're really not good at is ranged attacks. Yeah. But other than that, like they're good at fighting, they're good at armor, they have healing, they have destructions, like damaging spells. They got everything. They got buff spells and lots of stuff.
Yeah, particularly with the new with cantrips as well.
Because they can take cantrips now as well, absolutely. Yes. I mean, you could have even done that with Magic Initiative as well before, and just take it for Warlock, and then just get Eldritch Blast, and there's your range sorted. So actually, they're honestly one of the best all-rounder classes now. So here's what I was going to talk about a minute ago.
Okay. Hit me.
This is actually one that we came up with.
Oh, yes.
When we started our current campaign. Well, no, this is actually we stopped using it since. This is the simplified carrying capacity.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I came up with this because I wanted there to be... okay, here's the thing. I really like Tensor's Floating Disc. I think the spell gets completely forgotten about if you don't use carrying capacity. And I want it to be, because I think it's a cool spell. So I made this way, and I'm thinking about trying to track carrying capacity. Particularly, I don't think we were using D&D Beyond at the time, so it was quite complicated.
No, we were using the third-party app, yeah.
Yeah, and yet there was no way of tracking, or there probably was, but we didn't use it on that app because you had to enter everything manually. Yeah. The problem with it is, everything, like all the items that appear in the player's handbook and stuff like that, literally, they're all like, this weighs 1.2 pounds, this weighs 1 pound, this weighs 1.5 pounds, and like, trying to account for all of that and add them up and stuff is a pain in the ass.
Also,
to keep track of.
Please have that in kilos. Like, it's so much easier.
I know, yeah. Just put both. Just put both.
No, only kilos.
That's the thing as well. I have no point of reference for what a pound is.
14, and there's 14 pounds in a stone then as well.
The Imperial system of measurement is stupid. I'm going to go on record as saying that, and I will die saying that. The Imperial system of measurement is fucking dumb. My dad messaged me once. This happened a couple of years ago, and he asked me like the size of something. He wanted me to get measure something, and I was measuring like whatever it was, a doorway or a section of wall or something like that. And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like 1 point. What did I say it was? I said it was like 1.2 meters." And he's like, "So like 4 feet." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, if you want to be an imperialist about it." And he got really salty with me. And he was like, "All right, fine, be that way."
Yeah, no, I come across a lot of weightlifting because it'll say like some huge American lifter be like, yeah, it's like an 800. This is like an 800-pound lift, and I'm like, hang on, divide by 2.5. I was like, okay, that's not okay. Yeah, it's still impressive, but like 800 pound,
Yeah.
you know. And then like I'm like, should I start telling people what I lift in
Of course,
pounds
the
now?
number seems
Just
really
so it's
impressive, but then when you find out it's in grams, it's not as impressive.
Oh. Yeah, but yeah, if you wanna, do you wanna give the folks an idea what our simplified carrying capacity shtick was?
Yeah, so basically, I instead of having a ton of different weights for everything, I broke a lot of stuff down. So I basically made it so that when it comes to your size, whether it's tiny, small, medium, large, and so on, you can carry 1 times your strength score, if you're tiny, 10 times if you're small, 15 times if you're medium, 20 times if you're large, which would go for your Goliaths and I think your orcs as well. If I'm not
Goliaths
mistaken.
are still medium.
No, but they have that thing where like
Oh,
they
they
count
count
for
as
one size
bigger.
larger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Minotaurs
I
did
think
that as
orcs
well.
have it too. And then again, 30 times if you're huge, or 50 times if you're gargantuan, which probably wouldn't come up. But if someone wanted to stack a couple of enlarges or something like that, yeah. So I put that down. I thought that would made it pretty straightforward, and I thought it gave good benefit as to why, if you want to play Goliath or something like that, cool. They actually get a benefit out of that for your carrying capacity, which you still do, but this just made it a bit more streamlined. Then I made everything. I categorized things in general terms, and everything either weighs, and I didn't even give them a weight. I just called them units. Everything is either weightless at 0, 1, 2, 5, 10, or 20. Very light, which is 1. So anything weightless is like keys, medallions, maps, spell scrolls. They're all so small and so insignificant, doesn't matter. Very light is potions, wands, and torches. Light is light weapons, a bullet pouch, or a spell book. Average is average weapons, so something that's not like a long sword that's not heavy or light. Light armor, a quiver, a crossbow bolt case. Heavy is heavy weapons and medium armor, and then very heavy, which would weigh 20, is a set of heavy armor of some kind.
Cool.
And the idea is that you have set units and everything, and the examples I give here are just that if we come across an item where I'm like, okay, you find a chunk of stone, and you're like, cool, I'm going to add that to my inventory. How much does that weigh? I'll just look at something I think would be similar in weight, and I'll go, it's very light, so I'm going to say it's 1. Just add it down as 1 unit. Or if I thought, oh, there's a big chunk of, this is the idol that you found in a temple, and I'm like, it's pretty big, you know, you have to carry it with 2 hands, and they're like, how heavy is that? I go, oh, it's average. So it's like, it's 5. It's 5 units. You know, and it would just keep everything super simple. I could just glance at this, compare it to something I have on the examples list, and then get a general ballpark for how much that should weigh. We stopped using that, partially because we swapped over to D&D Beyond, and that tracks a lot of that stuff for us. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to go pen and paper at a table, I wouldn't mind going back to this if we were going to play pen and paper again for some reason.
Yeah.
Couldn't see why we'd do that, but I still do feel like that was well thought out, and that it was streamlined enough that you never had to go look up the book and go, what does like a pair of shackles weigh? Okay, it's 0.8 pounds. Like, you know, you don't have to do that and then add that on to whatever you have and stuff. Instead, I look at it, I go, that'll probably be like 1 because it's very light, you know?
Yeah.
I always like that.
From what I remember of actually using it at the time as well, when we did use it before we kind of moved everything to D&D Beyond, yeah, I felt like it worked. I felt like it was pretty simple, easy to understand, and particularly for the likes of myself and Wabu, who had loads of carrying capacity just because we were strength based and had like 18 in strength or whatever, at like level 1, which was fun. But yeah, no, I felt like it worked super well. Yeah, like it made sense as well. Like obviously, like Arkham, who is basically a skeleton with skin, can't carry as much as Wabu, who is like a giant green meat castle.
He's also a halfling, so he's small, so he only gets 10 times his strength score, and I think his strength score was like 7 or 8 or something like that.
It was like -2. Yeah, that was his mod.
Yeah. Oh, it's -2. It's like 7, so he can only carry 70 units in this system.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys have like 18, and you're also size medium, so it's 15 times 18. So I think he had, what's that?
It was like
on my phone somewhere.
It was like 240 something. I remember. Or it was like
Yeah, it was a lot by comparison. Then.
Was it 15 times 18?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, damn. Okay, no, it was like 270, but still, that's really good.
That's still really good, yeah. And then, like, again, I mean, if you were to go 20 times because you were a Goliath or an Orc or whatever, that's a huge amount of carrying capacity. It's just, again, all this sprouted because I was like, Tensor's floating disc isn't getting the attention it deserves.
I feel like that's every homebrew rule is, I really like this thing, and I want other people to really like this thing.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I'm going to include this rule that means that it's relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a table we still use on this, actually, this same set of rules, whether they're laminated, because because I was still using paper at the time, and I still carry these around with me when we're playing.
And we have a set. These to this day get used multiple times a session.
Mostly when I hit Wabu. I literally, I'd say I hit him about 3 times more with crits than I do anyone else in the party.
Oh, yeah. And both of us
this week
all the time.
I hit Aerith with his first crit of the campaign this week, just gone.
Yeah. To be fair though, today was also like the first time he hasn't been at least 60 feet away from an enemy at all times.
That's true, yeah. So the way I do this, it's major, minor. It's actually not it's not too dissimilar from the lingering injuries table, and I was only reading that recently. I might refine the two of them together and kind of get a bit of a hybrid thing going. Basically, the way it works is if someone scores a crit on you, and we do it for monsters and baddies as well, but I don't track it too properly if it's like a generic troll you ran into in the forest. I'm not going to pay too much attention to it then. But for you guys, as an added challenge for you, I do add it in. And the way that it works is, if someone scores a crit against you, oh, by the way, we don't do this anymore. We've actually altered these a little bit. Technically, there's a con save involved.
Oh, yes, but like, yeah, just that.
We don't do the con save anymore.
It's because I plus 9 to con saves.
So it's technically meant to be a con save that's similar to a concentration check, but and if you fail, you have to roll on this D100 table. It's divided up into like head/eyes, legs, right arm, left arm, and there's also a section for no injury. So even if you do get hit, there's a possibility you won't get a long-lasting injury from it. Yeah. Each section of your body, these 5 sections, or these 4 sections, I should say, if you're hit on one of them, you get either, for eyes, you get disadvantage on perception checks. That's a minor injury. The remaining minor injuries, in which your legs are, you get your movement speed reduced by 5 feet. It's kind of like, you got clipped a little bit, but it is something lasting. If you get hit either of your arms, you have disadvantage on attack rolls with weapons you're wielding in that arm. If you're wielding a crossbow or a bow, you still have disadvantage because one of your arms is not functioning correctly. Or if you're using a shield...
Poor Wabu.
Poor Wabu. If you're using a shield, the bonus to the shield is only equal to 1 until you can heal up that minor injury, because you can't as effectively use the shield, which I thought it still works pretty well. We still use that. The additional ones of those is, but if you get hit a crit again and you roll on the table and you get on the same body part, that injury now becomes a major injury. For the eyes, that means you're now blinded. For the legs, your speed is halved. For the right arm, you straight up cannot use the arm. So if you have a shield in that arm, you're now no bonus to the shield. Your arm is just kind of hanging there. Likewise, if you get damaged on, same with the left arm. And then if you have a weapon, you just can't use the weapon. You probably, realistically, you probably even drop the weapon at your side because you can't use your hand to lift it or pick it up. And there's a 20% chance that you will not get any injury, which I think is pretty fair. I should really add more onto this, more varied stuff, like, yeah. But it's pretty good, and honestly, it works pretty well for us. I think it adds a bit of an extra challenge.
Yeah, totally.
Like I said, Wabu usually ends up having a few. I mean, the thing is, you have adamantine armor.
I do,
which means you are immune to crits anyway. But even before you got the adamantine armor, I wasn't critting you nearly as much as I crit Wabu. I crit him a lot.
I remember before, yeah, you always crit Wabu more.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember before getting the adamantine armor a few times my legs just got this shit kicked out of them.
Oh yeah.
I remember being like, we were trying to get away from the place, and like I normally had like 40 speed, and it was like after the fight I had 10 speed because both of my legs had gotten major injuries.
Yeah. And we've ways to heal it up. A short rest won't do any benefit to heal those things. If you take a long rest, you can cure a minor injury just by taking the long rest. Or if you have a major injury and you take a long rest, you can reduce it down to a minor. So it's healed a little bit, but not quite fully.
Was the healer's kit on a short rest always part of it, or did we add that in later?
That's also here. So if you take a short rest and use one use of your healer's kit, you can cure a minor injury, or you can also reduce a major to a minor as well. So like short rest plus healer's kit is kind of the equivalent of long rest. So you can patch it up if you have the resources there. And if you have a long rest plus a healer's kit, you can just straight out cure a major injury. And then also you can just use lesser restoration to do either of those things and cure them just straight away. We still use it. Like I said, we don't do the con check anymore, but this comes up regularly for us, and I do think it's a bit of a challenge.
Like every single week.
Every single week. We have two barbs as well, and you guys get really stuck into things. Not so much for you anymore, but I mean, it does come up, and I honestly think it's a really good one. Like I said, I'd like to maybe refine it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's working well for us.
Hey, and as soon as I get magic tattoos, you can crit me again.
That's actually true. Yes. There's another one here we use, more so than any of the other ones that's actually listed here. This is probably my favorite one. It's so goddamn simple, but honestly, it's something I really enjoy. Actually, just a quick callback onto the injuries thing. That was my attempt to make healers kits more relevant as well. So it's always something I'm like, I like this thing. I want it to be more part of the game. So I do a well-rested bonus. And I got the idea when I was playing like any Bethesda games. You play Skyrim, Fallout, whatever. If you pay an inn or whatever to sleep in a bed, you'll wake up with a bonus. Which is really, really cool. I don't think it's used terribly often. I don't think the bonus is huge in those games, but it's something, you know. So what I do is first of all, the idea of having poor, squalid, modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic is why. All you need is poor, modest, and wealthy. Like, you don't need to have 6 different categorizations in these. So I group them into poor and squalid are together, modest and comfortable are together, and wealthy and aristocratic are. This is my well-rested bonus. If you pay the money to sleep in a tavern in a bed, you get the comfort and security of knowing you're in a locked room where you're safe, presumably. You get a comfortable bed, a good night's rest, and your food is included in that. So you're getting a really nicely cooked meal, depending on the level of that you're paying for it. As a bonus, I let you guys get a bonus to a bonus of temp HP first thing in the morning, equal to a number times your proficiency score. So, for example, if you're in a poor or squalid place, you're not really getting the best food or the best sleep. So it's 1 times your proficiency bonus temp HP at the start of the day. If you're in a modest or comfortable place, it's 2 times, and if you're in a wealthy or aristocratic place, it's 3 times. Which isn't like a huge amount, but it's a little bonus on health at the start of the day. It gives people a reason, because realistically, if you're any character and you arrive into the village and you walk up to the tavern and you're like, oh, we need a room for the night, and they're like, oh, that's 2 silver, please, and you're like, that's extortion, I'm gonna go sleep under a tree, and there's literally no reason why I can't do that. But this gives you a genuine reason to want to spend your money, and why you would sleep and also why would I pay 2 golds to sleep with the wealthy place if I can just pay a silver and get a room in the poor place? You know, like, it gives you a reason to want to spend more money because you're getting a genuine mechanical feedback.
Yeah.
And it scales up nicely because your proficiency bonus climbs with your character. And presumably you're getting wealthier as the game goes on as well. So by the time you're like in your late, level 17 and up, you can drop a couple of gold easy for a really, really nice room in the city, and then you're waking up the next day with 18 temp HP.
Yeah, it's been pretty clutch sometimes, particularly if anytime we've like forked out to spend nice in the like nicer places. But yeah, coming out with like 8 or 10 temp HP is big, like particularly at the lower levels as well. It's like really, really big. Like actually level 1, if you think about it, like if you were to spend like a night in a comfier, modest place, like you would come up with, like, if you're a wizard, you're coming out with nearly double your hit points. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because as a wizard, you maybe have 7, 8, 9,
maybe 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, if you with a +2 that, and if you can spend the money to stay in the nice place, you're getting 6 more HP, which is almost double your health, which is insane.
Yeah.
So it does scale up pretty nicely, I think.
I really
if you want
like
to fork out the right money for it.
And I think it'll actually be something I adapt into my second campaign. To be honest, I'm absolutely nabbing that. So thank you.
Yeah, I would also like to kind of modify this a little bit more as well. Maybe do like the poor squalid one is like some other benefit. Maybe if you stay in the aristocratic place, you also get an inspiration die into the next day, but it doesn't last longer than the day. You get it until you long rest next, which could be, again, it could also be really, really clutch, and would explain why you definitely want to spend 2 gold a day to stay in that really fancy inn at the top of town, because an extra reroll every day, no one's going to say no to that,
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
But yeah, do you have any ones you've taken? I really have been talking a lot, and do you have any stuff that you
see, I do a lot of homebrew like items and stuff, but I actually don't use that many homebrew rules aside from the potion as a bonus action one. I did up some homebrew weather rules for a while when we were that they're not like super complex, but I got sick and tired of I just got sick of rolling just the table myself, and I kind of felt like I'd be like, all right lads, your weather is, it's raining. Okay, cool. But like, so I wanted, particularly because I was going into a bit of a dangerous area, or a bit of an area that was kind of wild elementally in kind of weather wise. What I do is I have 4 players. For however many players you have, roll a dice of equal number. So I have 4 players. I roll a d4. Depending on who that lands on, I get them to roll a d20. Then I roll another d4 that determines the next person, and then I end up with 3 d20 rolls from 3 party members. And based on what they roll, that determines the weather. So I think I had like, I know, so it might have been a D100 actually. Give me a sec, I'll see if I can. I just pull it up here, but I'm pretty sure it was like a D100 or a D20, and it was like the early increments were like nothing happens. Then mid tier it was like light, and then if they got like a 99 or a 1, I think if it was like a 1 or a 99, I'd something extreme happen. But otherwise it would just kind of scale fairly normally, and like I like that. Primarily for the reasons that it kind of got the other players involved in it as well, and it became a thing now where like I'd be like, all right guys, I gotta roll the d4, and the party would be like, oh, I hate it when he does this. I'm like, yeah. I
like that I mean, like, I've only started using weather mechanics in the last few months in our games. I typically didn't use them, but then you guys were traveling on the road between 2 towns, and I'm like, it's the dead of winter. So I started rolling to see, is it particularly cold today, or is it a little bit mild? Will you guys get away with not having as much protection, or is there high winds? You have the visibility to spot things at a distance, or particularly actually because there's one ranged blood hunter in the group, Aerith, and if you have high winds, they have disadvantage on attack rolls with ranged weapons, because obviously the wind is throwing off their shot. I think actually it's a little thing, but it's all on one page on the DMG there. And if you're willing to just take 2 minutes to roll, I think it's 3 d20s. It could be add an extra layer of complexity to, particularly if you're out traveling on the roads or up in the mountains or doing some level of exploration.
Yeah, sorry. So I found not the exact one. First of all, I agree with that absolutely. But just looking at it now. Particularly with the range thing as well, absolutely. High winds can really, really harshly affect range characters. So this was for when I had my characters going through an area of like broken and shattered magic that was just like wild and connected to all these other kind of planes and stuff. So
I remember we talking about before. Yeah.
So I was using the supernatural storm rules or supernatural weather rules that are in Tasha's. And so I had. Because they were going through different domains. One was earth, one was fire, one was a hell domain. For the earth, for the earth domain I had a flame wind, and then for the fire domain I had a flamestorm.
Firestorm or flamestorm.
Yeah. So what I did for both of those was basically I roll a d20, 1 to 10, no storm, 11 to 15, storm starts tomorrow, 16 to 20, storm hits now.
Pretty cool.
It was just a really simple and straightforward and easy way just to be like, okay, they're in this area. They're going to be at least like 3 days traveling through this area. And it kind of just gave me an like I'd roll and then I'd be like, okay, like if the storm starts now, they have a hot start to this new area they go into. If I get a mid-range roll, which are probably going to be the most common ones, it starts tomorrow. So they have a day of travel, and then when they wake up tomorrow and set off for travel, what's that in the distance? Oh, cool. But the storm comes in. Or 1 to 20, no storm at all. They just carry on. And then I did that for every day of travel that they had. I rolled the d20 to see what happened. And sometimes they got really lucky and they got through an area with no storms at all. My players were never that lucky. But yeah, they got that. And then the other one then I did was just the general weather stuff. It was I'd roll a d4 based on I rolled dice based on how many people I was aiming for. D4 one. I'd literally, because we were still playing virtually, I'd go 1 2 3 4 roll. Okay, cool, you. And then pick that person, and then literally I would have them. Actually, I don't think I'd have them roll the next d4. That would be it. Sorry, I'd roll a d4 to pick someone, have them roll a d20, take their result. All right, you roll a d4 now, and you then whatever you roll, that's the next person, as long as you don't roll yourself again. And then carry that on one more time to the third person. So there's always one person who kind of gets away with it, and then but they might get caught for it the next time. And like so many times when I had players roll for it, like, oh, it's another thunderstorm.
Weather's always a weird thing in D&D because you have like you could roll on the table and be like, oh, there's a hurricane, oh, it's destruction and everything's going crazy, and the next day your long rest next day comes around, you roll again, it's like, oh, it is sunny. The next day again you're like, it's another hurricane.
I had to just flat out stop using the weather rules that I had made when I got to this one area that I was at that was supposed to be like this really cold weather area, and I was like, and our first session in I hadn't forgotten. I just trusted the rules of the game to work in the way that would best suit me, which is fucking mistake number 1 in D&D. Like, the rules aren't there to suit you. The rules are there to help you and occasionally punish you terribly. But yeah, basically first day we were to our brand new extreme winter area, and like I like they'd gone and gotten like cold weather clothes and all this kind of stuff. Have a first day roll weather. So the sky is clear, there's a light snowfall, and it's unseasonably warm.
Yeah, it doesn't always line up.
Those three things don't work together, because for snow you need clouds, and for snow you need cold.
Yeah, there was a couple times where I was like that, where like, what was it? Yeah, it's just like the weather things. You kind of got to take them with a grain of salt. They don't always make 100% sense.
And what we mean is sometimes you're going to have to just lie to your party.
Yeah, and also it's like you also like can just think like sometimes if you're in a winter like tundra. Sorry, my brain just gave up for a second. If you're in like a tundra area, it's okay to just not roll the dice and be like, it's still cold and it's still snowing, because that's the way you are. If you're in a desert, there's no point in you rolling on the precipitation tables, because guess what? It ain't happening.
Yeah, particularly if you've like a magical effect that's affecting the weather, which like I had. So like you looking back, it was even stupider to use weather rules. I could have just went, it's a horrible thunderstorm for the next 30 days. Get used to it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
You know.
And I mean that's a layer of challenge that your players can even like prepare for as well, because if they are looking at the horizon and they're like, oh, we got to travel through that persistent storm that's been there for months, we got to go through that to get to where we're going, then they can be like, cool, let's see what we can like get together in terms of supplies or magic items or whatever to try and like make sure that we're best prepared going into this horrible, persistent, ever raging storm. There's a couple other ones here I want to go through with you, Martin.
Yeah, by all means.
These are some popular ones I saw online. Cards on the table, I stole most of these from XP to level 3. Thank you, Jacob.
That's great. I have a thread open. I have literally a Reddit page open now of the thread. What's the worst homebrew rules you've ever seen?
I stole some of these from Jacob's video. XP Level 3, check them out, guys. Really good stuff.
Thoroughly excellent. Really good podcast as well, the Arcane
It's
House.
it's oh, yes, she is. It's ambitious of me to imagine a world where certain people have heard of us and not of XP Level 3. But
It's
anyway,
a bit horse before the cart, cart before the horse, alright, yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So this is a common one Jacob brought up, but also this is a common one I see loads of people talking about online. Is a level 1 starter feat. It's not in the rules, but I mean, I know when our friend Gavin ran his game a few months back, he was giving us all level 1 starter feats. When I don't think we did it this campaign, but we toyed with the idea. I definitely seen other people do it. I see it come up in threads an awful lot. People like a level 1 starter feat because it's an extra thing you get to choose at first level to be like, oh, I get my character to be a little bit different than other people, you know?
Yeah. It's literally why you choose human variant. It's what I did this campaign. I chose
Yep.
human variant so I could start with spear mastery.
Then you get 2 level 1 starter feats. I like
Spear
this one.
mastery,
I like.
polar master.
There you go. God, Polar Master and Sentinel.
I've promised Connor I won't take polar master this campaign.
uh, but yeah, I mean, I really like this. I think it's simple. It does not break the game. Like anyone listening, I promise you, there is no combination because first level characters are so squishy. There is no combination of feat and first level class and race you can take that will absolutely break the game. It just doesn't exist. Feats are good, and there's some really good ones in there, like tough and stuff like that. But even then, tough at level 1 is 2 extra HP.
Yeah.
It doesn't amount to a lot. So yeah, I like it. I think this is great. I think it's another one of the reasons I really like Warlock so much is because in the first few 4 levels of Warlock, there's so many things you get to choose from,
You get your patron, you get your pact magic, and you get your invocations.
and you get a feat or at level 4 then.
Oh yes, of course, yeah, that's really
Yeah.
nice.
So
Actually.
you get 4 things or an ASI depending on how you rule it, but you get 4 things in the first 4 levels that you get to choose to customize your character as best as you can. And I think if you can do a starter feat for every single person and give them even more options, you know, I think that's really, really great, you know. Another one I have here, I took this one down. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. This was no secret characters. So like everyone knows everyone's class and race at the start, and there's none. I do feel like a lot of D&D or inter-party stuff is kind of like it just evolves into people being like everyone has their own hidden agenda or their own hidden backstory, and I'm kind of like we could all just tell each other our backstories.
Like I
But
get it if you're
Right.
like I'm going to do a reveal later, or like oh, do you know I am such and such, and I actually can do this or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can get that, but I also think those things never work out as well as you think they will.
No, not nearly, not nearly. I mean, I've done it before myself. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, mind you. But I can see why, if you're the dungeon master, and all the players are sitting in a tavern, and they're like, "So, where did you come from?" "Oh, around. You know, what about you?" Don't want to talk about it. And everyone's just like not discussing their characters because they're all just like edgelords, and none of them have any living parents. All their parents are dead.
Yeah.
And they're all hiding their identity, and they all have false names and all this stuff.
The best I've seen that done would be why can I not /Veth in Critical Role. That's
Yeah.
the best. That's the best way I've ever seen that done because it actually got the desired effect, and that wasn't even so much as a secret character because everyone knew it was. And she was not, and she was a goblin, and she was a rogue. And
Yeah.
then like just was once she changed over. But spoilers for campaign 2, but like literally we're 4 episodes into campaign 3, so if I haven't seen it yet, tough. But yeah, like,
Also, that's not even late campaign 2. That's like
Yeah.
like mid to early campaign 2.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and also like, oh, did you ever notice that thing? 3 times Not was asked for her name, and 3 times she gave fake names, and it was Veth,
Yeah.
Bren, and Otto.
Yeah, Veth, Bren, and Otto. Yeah.
Very. I love Sam. He's such an evil genius.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I said. That's all I kind of want to say is like yeah, if you want to do like a reveal as part of your character, keep it as like a backstory thing. Like you're like an exiled prince or princess or
Your current game, there's a guy who is he a lord or a prince?
Oh,
Is he your swashbuckler?
sorry, yes, Arandir, my swashbuckler rogue. Yeah, he was like an exiled prince for 50 years, and then like literally the first backstory arc we did was going back to his place, which was a lot of fun, and we got to do that, and now he is Prince Arandir Corsair of Cirith Laura.
Yeah.
Well,
what I will say to a pitfall to avoid.
He used a different second name as well. Actually, starting out, he was Arandir Corsair, and now he's Arandir Duin here, which is his family name. So he full on did that switch as well through it.
I think that you've told me a few different things about that. That all sounded really good to me. I think there is one pitfall to avoid when doing some characters, because you said sometimes it's about the reveal, about getting a really cool reveal and stuff like that. And I completely agree. And like sometimes the drama of that, the resolution of being like, actually, my name is such and such, I'm the exiled prince of this, that's really awesome, and that can be great for both the player who is revealing it and also everyone else at the table and the DM who knew this all along, and they're like, "Ooh, you're finally seeing what I know," and that can be really, really great. But I think don't fall into the pitfall of I want to be this lost prince, or I want to be this criminal. Maybe you're using a false name the whole time. Because you actually have a really messed up criminal past. But like, if the entire reason you're doing this other identity or this hidden part of your past is so that you can at some point reveal it, that doesn't work out well long term. You need to be enjoying the character for a lot of other reasons, and not just waiting for the one day that you're going to go, this thing, and that's that character's the only what you call it, the only
they're a one note
asset
character.
Thank you, one note. It's the only note that character has is, I have this reveal that I will do someday. Week to week, session to session, you need to be enjoying their personality, their race, their class, everything, the style in which you play them, and you need to be having fun doing that. Because if you're to sit there and waiting for the day that you can finally go, this is the character, I promise you, it just won't be worth it for the DM. It won't be worth it for you, and the players will probably get a kick out of it when it happens. But you've got to sit on that for weeks or months until it happens, and I promise it won't work out.
Do you mind if I make a slight addendum to that as well?
Go on.
Don't build characters where something gets revealed at your death.
There's no payoff. No. If in your death you find a note on the person's body,
it would need to be like world shaking for it to be anywhere near worth it. Like, it would need to be that you were secretly the god of mischief who had been traveling with the party for the entire time, and the warlock was like a warlock whose patron was the god of mischief. That's the only time that will pay off ever, and even then it probably won't pay off. Like, don't have like, oh, my body explodes and there's a small man inside me who's been piloting me all the time. No, that's a terrible Eddie Murphy movie called Dave, and no one liked it.
Yes. It just, it's very, like you said, it's very one note, and it's.
Sorry, I'm the spicy today.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think it doesn't amount to a well-rounded character. And also, like, the thing is as well, like, if like, for example, let's just say for talk's sake that there was a big reveal at the moment that, like, at the death of your, let's say the swashbuckler in your party had died, and you look on him and you find a ring on his body, and it's the royal family ring, and then he was a member of the royal family. It's like, that's cool, but he's dead now, so like there's very little consequence to that as a result. I think reveals are cool, but don't build your character around don't make them a reveal machine. Don't build the character with the entire concept that at some point it'll be amazing when I tell everyone this. It should be just as impressive day one. Yeah. You should be able to say the same thing day one and have it be just as impressive.
Yeah, for the reveal to be good, you need to have the mask that you're using for the reveal needs to be entertaining.
Exactly, yeah. Because if the character that you're pretending to be or whatever
I have the perfect analogy for this.
Go on.
No one wants to be Armin Tanzarian.
Yeah, pretty much, I guess.
Don't no, like, if the character under the mask is less interesting than the mask, people will like the mask better.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because I guess in that episode of The Simpsons, like when you find out he was like a soldier and all that's kind of interesting, but then he just goes to being Armin Tamzarian and he's just doing his shopping and he's not the principal, and it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
If he's not the principal, who is this character? And he kind of loses everything. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you don't want to be the person who's like, if there's a differential between this is who I'm pretending to be and this is who I am, and one of them is inherently more fun or more entertaining. Yeah, absolutely.
We've gone weirdly into character now out of homebrew rules, but I don't mind.
Yes. No. Well, do you know what? It was a no secret characters. That's more of a table rule as opposed to a homebrew thing. But I thought I'd throw it in there. It was interesting. So yeah. So what I was going to say here. So this was something I really really liked, but now we have the Artificer and the Blood Hunter. So I don't think it's as relevant anymore.
Okay.
But there's this thing that XP Level 3 mentioned in the video, where it's called Intelligence Proficiency Points. And it makes sense to me that the smarter you are, the more skilled you are at languages and tools and skills. So the thing was, you get a modifier, you get a number of new skills, and they can be skill, tool, or language proficiencies based on your proficiency or your intelligence modifier. So if you have a 16 intelligence with a +3 modifier, you can pick 3 more languages, tools, or skills. And I actually quite like this, and it makes sense, and it made intelligence more valuable. But at the time, intelligence wasn't as valuable because really, if you're not a wizard, no one's or an arcane trickster or an eldritch knight, no one's using intelligence as a prime modifier. But now we have the Artificer and the Blood Hunter, and I'm like, we maybe don't need this as much, but I do think it's a cool rule.
We have Artificer, Blood Hunter, things like Echo Knight as well, which use Int, I believe.
I think it actually does, yeah.
Yeah, Cyanide is as well, isn't it?
Cyanide. Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I'd have to double check.
Just since this has come out, we've had actually quite a significant amount of stuff come out for like your Int-based characters, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, it was always a stat that was kind of getting a little bit forgotten. Yeah. I mean, particularly over Wisdom. Wisdom was just always a better one to pick, in my opinion.
Int has literally always been the dump stats for my character.
Yeah. Now again, with a lot of new stuff coming out, I think that's not the case anymore. But I do think that if you wanted to give your character some more skills and stuff, it would be a good reason if you're playing, we'll say, none of those classes. Let's say you're playing a fighter or barbarian. It'd be a good reason to be like, oh, I want to have a couple of extra skills or tools, so I'm going to have a 14 in Int, even though it would typically not be the thing a barbarian would take. Yeah. But, it could still benefit your character to have that.
I think Lug has 13 Int or 12 Int at the moment, I want to say.
Yes, I think you're +1 or +2, I think. Yeah.
+1 at least, yeah.
Yeah. All right, another one here I have is, this one's interesting. I don't think you'll like this at all.
Okay.
This one is the DM rolls the death saving throws behind the screen.
I actually don't mind that one.
Oh really?
I could see that being kind of fun. Personally speaking, I would rather have control over my own fate, because I think there's the danger of someone getting salty at the DM basically for their character dying.
Yeah, or claiming that you'd have to have complete and total trust in your DM, because if there was a case that you thought the DM was fudging that or whatever, then that's a big no. So I think I do have a variation on that where the player rolls behind the DM screen so that none of the other players know how you're doing in terms of it, but you made the roll. So it'd be a case of, I'd be like, okay, Martin, I need you to make a death save. Come over here. You roll behind the screen with me. We both know what it is, but you don't tell anyone, and no one else knows. So they're like, we don't know if he failed or if he's really close to death or what, And I think that does create a good sense of drama and urgency.
We're playing D&D with a group of professional poker players, then, are we? Because I don't know if you've ever seen me roll a death save, but it's very clear what happens based on how I look.
It'll either be a like that, or it'll be a whoo.
Yeah. It'll be But no, I like that. I actually do like that. I think if you want to do it to build more tension into your game. Because I know a lot of people have problems with the death mechanics in D&D. I know they do. So I could totally. Personally speaking, I as a player from a player's point of view, I would be I would be much more interested in. I would prefer to control my own fate. Is the way I would put it. But yeah, just in terms of how the concept of it, like the DM rolls or death saves. Yeah, I like it. I do think there is an opportunity. Like, you just need to make sure that everyone is on the same page with that, and everyone's okay with that, and that and that you trust your DM mostly as well. Because like, if you've any inkling that your DM may not like you, or there's some issues between the two of you, and suddenly your character dies, you might go,
preach, brother.
Yeah, you might like, oh bullshit. You know, no, like.
You and I know a DM that I would not have trusted as far as I could have fucking thrown him with rolling my death saving throws. Not a chance. Not a chance.
But as
great question for you.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, if I was gonna do that system, I would do a thing where I would roll the dice and immediately take a picture of it. Roll the dice, immediately take a picture of it.
Yes, and then you can go back and you can show them exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's definitely one way of doing it. I think maybe just let the player know how they're doing, but don't let the other players know is maybe a good one.
I still think they're gonna know. Because like, we all like, I don't care how much you say you're okay with your D&D character dying. When your D&D character's on death saves, it is stressful.
Yeah, true. Question for you. Before we started, you said you had one rule that really bugged you or pissed you off, that you'd seen someone use before or something like that. I'm curious what this was.
I will say it didn't just piss me off. It pissed off and got ridiculed from, I will say, 99% of r/D&D.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was this guy. He was like, I think it was something. No, this is literally going back years, but I still remember it because of how incredibly dumb it was.
Okay.
So I think it was a similar thing where, like, what are your homebrew world rules or whatever. And this guy was like, there's no martial classes in my world. And everyone was like, excuse me? He was like, no, with people being able to, like, all spellcasters exist, and because all spellcasters exist, everyone's decided that learning martial techniques is useless. Everyone will just stick to learning magic. And then the first reply to that was, what do you call the people who pick up sticks and beat up the nerds in your world then?
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. We were only talking a little while ago about Dune and how the shields work and how they don't use firearms because it's just, and I get like the inclination or the possibility of your mind wandering off and going, well, if everybody has magic and shields and spells, why would anyone pick up a weapon and fight someone, you know, instead of just vaporizing them with a flick of the wrist? I get it, but also you have too much time in your hands, and also no one gets points for throwing out half the rule book. Like, go like, fair enough if you have problems with certain subclasses or races in your world and whatever, but I've never known anyone to be like, this first half of the book, just get rid of that, flick that in the bin.
It might have just been fighters, I think, maybe like your non-magical fighters, but I just remember, I think his basic justification was, why would anyone learn to use a weapon when you can learn spells? And my answer was, because not everyone can cast magic.
Yeah.
Like, because not everyone can cast magic, and if you can't cast magic, well, what else are you going to do to try and defend yourself? Like,
I mean, it's very presumptuous of him to assume that every single person in his world will either have innate magical abilities, be smart enough to learn spells, be a person of faith where they can be granted it, or make a deal with a devil to be granted magic.
I would also put in there, have enough money to go to a college to learn to be a wizard.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You know he's part of the 1%. He's like, oh, doesn't everybody have enough money to go to wizarding college?
No, my immediate reaction to this was, how many...
My father got me into the Ivy League.
My immediate reaction was, how many lockers were you stuffed in before you came up with this homebrew rule? You fucking nerd. Like, oh my god. Like, who hurt you or mocked you so badly that you were like, anyone with any physical gifts cannot exist in my world?
I got beat up by the jocks every day in school, and now I'm here and there are no jocks in my fantasy world.
Yeah, like, look, I just... Oh,
by the way, we're not condoning anyone bullying anyone at all.
No, we're not.
But This is a very bad take by my problem is there if there's no martial classes, I'm like that's so much flavor and like and like you think about knights and medieval fantasy and like magic items like swords and armor and shields and everything. If you're throwing out the rule book on all of that, what is left? You should just be playing a different game.
It's like that's like yeah, exactly. Because if you don't get rid of martial classes, you get rid of everything associated with them. So that's weapons, armor, shields. That's like so much of the rules.
No one's wearing any of those magic items. Yeah. Like you should literally just be no. That's a terrible.
Literally but this was what literally everyone was saying to them, and they kept trying to justify themselves, and everyone was like, "What do you mean? No one learns to fight? Like, what happens if someone calls someone's mother a hoe in the bar? Do they just settle it with a fucking spell battle? Like, you know? I mean,
to be fair, that does sound pretty awesome. If two people got into a fight, it's like I challenge you, and they start whipping spells at each other. Like.
Okay, that's cool, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, I get what you mean. Absolutely, yeah.
Like, nearly every civilization has its own martial art. Like, literally. Every civilization, and that can even go down into each country in that civilization can have a slightly different variation, and that can go down to even each town has a slightly different variation on it. Like
I could get behind you writing in a particular kingdom or yes. country or whatever in your world where they don't have traditional armies. All of their armies are magic users.
Battle mages, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that'd be super cool. I mean, like in my homebrew world in Asteria, the town, the city of Temerai, it's the Arcanist Principality of Temerai. It's ruled by 7 mage princes, and it has been for hundreds of years. And their order of knights that were the guardians of their or the servants of these mages went on to become the police, essentially, the town watch, and they're called the Spell Guard. But they carry shields and they have swords as backups. But I think backups are a thing as well, by the way. You should probably have a weapon as a backup. What happens if you're in anti-magic field? You should slap at each other?
Yeah, I was like, did no one... So no one invented the spell anti-magic field in your world?
Exactly, yeah. So the Spell Guard, a lot of them are trained with like either Shocking Grasp or Firebolt, because like they don't carry crossbows. Why would you need a crossbow? Just firebolt across and you hit someone with a firebolt.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I think I get this is a guy who thinks he's coming up with the next Dune.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit ahead of himself. He thinks he's figured out something that no one else has, and I'm like, just play a different game. If you should never be throwing out, and that's just probably a good place for us to round off on, Martin. If you Homebrew is great. We always love customizing our games, throwing in extra magic items and monsters and everything, and even changing some of the rules if we feel they don't fit our playstyle particularly well. But if you find that you are throwing out half of the rules, or you are completely rewriting the game from the ground up to suit your particular playstyle, maybe 5e isn't it for you.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's okay. I know this is a D&D podcast, but you don't have to play D&D. There's loads of other really cool systems out there that would better suit. Like Matt Cole did a video on it a while back where he talked about how 5e is very much a game about hunting and killing monsters and getting gold. And you can stretch it out into other things as well, but like there are other systems that are better suited for things other than that. And I think I think that's a good place to leave it. But Martin.
Yes, Connor.
That's all the time we have for today.
It's good. It was a good one, man. We got 2 Martin rants in one episode. It's an unusual.
This doesn't happen. This does not happen often.
Yeah, it's.
Oh god. If you have any questions you'd like us to ask, stories you'd like us to share, or topics you would like us to cover, please tweet us at MicFlayers on Twitter. You'll find that on the lower screen. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic. I mess it up every week. Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic.
It's our brand by now.
Yes, exactly. Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
Mostly you can find me on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the bottom right hand corner. Boom, right about there. I don't know why I pointed over my shoulder. Never mind. You can also find me on the Micflayers podcast Twitter account, which is at MicFlayersPod on Twitter, which is in the bottom right hand corner of our screen as well. And mostly you can find me right here on the Micflayers podcast every Friday, 6 p.m. Irish time with my good friend Connor.
Perfect. You guys can find me on Twitter at 0.Connor, ZeroPointConor, 1N, very important. And like Martin just said, every Friday, 6 p.m. Irish time on the Micflayers podcast. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our episode on homebrew rules. We'll probably revisit homebrew again. I know we both have lists a mile long of ideas and magic items and other stuff we have.
Literally just added 2 new types of magic bullets to my game. Well, I didn't. My gunslinger did this week.
I am all for it. So we'll definitely revisit the topic again in the future. But until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.